Hey guys, what's up? In this video, what I'm going to be doing is going over the basics of sales management. And this is more specific to the high ticket closing stuff, whether it be fitness, whatever it may be. But this is like exactly what you have to do when you're managing an account in order to make sure that you get the best possible outcome. So we need some sort of daily routine. So here we've got a daily routine. The subjects are EOD, sales forms, MIND, problem solving, find the money. Okay, so end of day forms. End of day forms are really, really handy because they take 2 seconds to fill out, but also they give you a whole lot of data, and you can get stuff that you're not able to pull very easily from a CRM. Right? There are some systems like RevBase which kind of bypass this, but until those systems put into your business or whatever account you're managing, it's going to be very difficult too. But there are a couple key things that you want to find when it comes to your EOD forms. There are a couple of key numbers. Okay, the first of all is you want to figure out your capacity, or like your slot utilization. What that's going to be is it's going to be calls held to total slots. So let's just say you have 100 calls held, but you had 200, like the availability to have 200. So you have a 50% slot utilization, right? So what is slot utilization handy for? It's handy because you want it upwards of like 80%. Okay? If it's at 50%, it means that you're underutilizing your reps. You know, so because it's the actual spots that are being utilized, it's your actual capacity. Because technically speaking, like the spots that don't get filled, or the spots that get filled but don't show are not being utilized, right? So it's the actual utilization, which if it gets up to 80, 90% and it's doing that for a long period of time, then you have to hire more reps. Right? You have to get more people onto there. You can talk to the marketing. You can see if they can ramp it up because we are utilizing our team to the maximum capacity. But if you're at 80%, you don't get more reps, and all of a sudden you go down, and because you're tracking this for the team, but you're also tracking this for the individual. So if you got one guy that can give you way more or whatever it is, then like you need to be able to track that, because if someone goes on holiday and then all of a sudden like half your availability goes, and now you're at 100%, 110%. Slot utilization, that's not very handy, right? So then what happens then? What happens then is that you have to open up the booking spots further out. The side effect of that is that you have a higher no-show rate. The side effect of that is that you have a lower slot utilization rate, and then you're going to have lower closing because you're not able to have as many people show up, right? So that's the cascading of effects as to why you should know that. I should be able to kick you in your sleep and you fucking know that number. One of the other things that we want to get, okay, as opposed to capacity, is we want to have obviously our show rate, right? Show rate is simply just the amount of calls held to the amount of calls booked, okay? This is really handy. We want to have like a golden number. 65% is a pretty good number that we want to try and achieve, right? We can go higher than that, but like if you're at 65%, then like trying to get higher in most instances isn't going to be super helpful for you. But if you're lower than that, then it's going to be hard to scale the offer. Right? Now, when it comes to problem-solving show rate, okay, and again, I'm going to go through this a little bit out of order, but this is what being a sales manager is like. It is side quest city, right? Because you see something, you go here, you go here. It's a constant series of problem-solving and side quests to get and hunt for the golden goose, which is the things that you can fix now, which give you the outcome immediately. The number one reason, okay, for no-shows is the fucking text credits run out, right? So text, right? Is it happening? Are they going out? Do they say the business name, right? Are they ridiculous? Are they too many? Not enough, right? If I was to book in and never get a reminder via text and only got them via email, I probably wouldn't show up. I'm not gonna lie. Not because I don't want to, but because like I would forget. So it needs to say, hey Matt, it's just, you know, hey Matt, your appointment with X is in 60 minutes. Looking forward to seeing you. Whatever it may be. Go innocuous, then you can go harsher from there. But you need to make sure the text credits are there. You do not wait for the fucking tech team to go out there and refill them. If you don't know how to do that, you're a shitty sales manager, right? You right there. You should know how to use the booking system that's being used, whether it's HubSpot, Go High Level, OneSub, Schedule, fucking Calendly, whatever it may be. YouTube will teach you everything you need to know. These are simple, off-the-shelf, drag-and-drop products that are not difficult to use. We're not coding HTML and Python here, okay? So check the text sequence. Also check the email sequence, right? Is the email sequence going out? Does it make sense? Then what you would have a look at is, are we over-communicating or under-communicating? If we're sending 25 reminder texts, it might be pissing people off and causing no-shows. If we're sending one, it might not be enough, right? I like, maybe 24 hours, and then we want to have like, say, 6 hours and, 30 minutes or whatever like that, right? 3 reminders is probably plenty. You also want to make sure that it's set to like not do it. There's a little button that you can press in most of them where it will take into account their local time. You don't want to be sending messages out at 3 a.m. Just don't do it. Just check the box, right? What else could be causing no-shows, right? Have a look through the funnel, okay? See if there's anything particularly egregious, or check with the marketing team. Are they still sending out all of the email reminders, or all the texts and all the emails? Are they not being de-tagged from marketing? When someone books a call, they should be taken off all of the generic marketing sequences. Like if they've opted to 25,000 things over the past year, now they're hopping on a call, that's a great lead. Let's not piss them off. Okay? So let's make sure we remove that. On removing things, so many people do additive measures, right? And you're probably not the first sales manager to ever go in there, and everyone wants to like stamp their little ground, right? So additive measures are fine. However, if you're only ever doing additive, then you're just stacking all this shit on top of each other. After 2 years, it's a total shit show, right? Try some reductive measures. If you have a comically woeful show rate, like 15%, remove everything. No text, no emails, no nothing, right? No manual anything. Just see what happens if you do absolutely nothing. Then from there, just add one thing at a time, right? And then as soon as that starts to go up, then it hits a point where it goes backwards a little bit, stop, right? And that might be right for where you are right now, okay? And like certain industries are gonna have worse ones, like salon owners and PTs, all that kind of stuff. They just have, sales reps that have traditionally worse, maybe like 55%. Some are like business stuff, like B2B stuff is gonna have like 90% show rates, right? So just try and figure out like what's the number that you're happy with, and then move on to the next one, okay? But you can't scale an offer with like 10%. Also, what can we do, right, to bypass the fact that we have a shitty show rate? Do you know what I mean? In the meantime, if we need 60 minutes to make a sale, if we need 60 minutes, okay? And in your sales form, okay, one of the things that you want to have is duration. Why? Because then you'll actually tell how long a sale takes to make instead of fucking guessing, right? Good move, smart, big brain, right? Then you can say, hey, the average is 45 minutes to make a sale, right? But if the average call is going for 90 minutes, it's like, guys, just cut it at fucking 45. You're not going to make the sale, right? But anyway, so if we have 60-minute sales calls, and if we have a 30% show rate, then why don't we just do 30-minute back-to-back, right? Because like only one of them is going to show. So realistically, you've got 90 minutes to make that sale. Like, and then you just teach the people how to manage that, where someone's going to go, hey, I'm just running 15, 20 minutes late. Apologies, would it be okay if I gave you a call at this time instead? Do you know what I mean? Like most people are going to be fine with it, right? Especially if you book it as like a, you know what I mean? You can stack them, right? So, or you can do like 45 minutes back to back instead of the 60. So over the course of a sales team with 3 reps, over the course of a month, you're getting back a lot of hours. So you're making yourself incredibly more efficient, and you're cramming it down. They go, oh, but I can't close it in 30 minutes. It's like, motherfucker, you don't have to. Like 1 out of 3 shows up, you get 30 minutes, you get 90 minutes on average with the fucking person. Like, come on, guys, like fucking think outside the box, right? That's how you can that's how we're gonna speak to more people in the short term without reps doing this whole fucking day, right? Then we have a look, like one of the best ways to get a really high show rate is to have the rep just reach out as soon as that person books. As soon as they book, if that rep reaches out by a phone or text and like actually gets a response, hey, just saw that you booked in my calendar, really looking forward to speaking with you. Is there anything that I can do in between now and then that's gonna make our chat more productive? And then from there, like we speak to them. Like I have 90 plus show up rates on most things that I've sold, in the last little bit, whether it's B2B, B2C, just because I do that. It's really, really simple. Okay, so that's a good one that you can enact, right? There's all kinds of things, but the big one is like the text, and you have to know and you don't wait for tech team or marketing to do this. This is your job. As the sales manager, this is your job to fucking fix. You go in there, if you don't know how to do it, you suck at your job, and it would take you 5 minutes to learn how to do this, okay? So EOD forms, we're looking for capacity, we're looking for show rate, right? What else are we looking for, okay? All the way in the back, the good looking one. Okay, me, so, right, we wanna have our average cash, right? Because we're getting paid on cash per sale, right? We also wanna know our close rate, right? One of the things with close rate is we wanna be able to go like, what is it individually? And what happens if we, like, is there a high performer or a low performer, right? If there's a massively high performer, right, then what we do is someone's closing at 50% and everyone else is at 15, right? We fucking give that dude the ball. We can go in, not only can we fuck with the priority, but what we do is we make sure these motherfuckers do not get calls at all until this guy is fucking absolutely full. And you be changing that every single day. If you've got someone who's closing better than everybody else and consistently, you make sure they're full. You go into the booking system and you, like for a couple of hours, you take everybody else off. You wait till that guy's full, then you put them back on, right? The priority system probably won't be enough, you know what I mean? If you really want to fill that person up. But if you have somebody that has capacity, right? Because if we have a look at it this way, we split the team into two. We have Alpha and Bravo, right? Alpha is this guy. We have a $5,000 offer. He has a $3,000 average cash value, right? And then he has a 50% close rate, right? So it's like, okay, cool. So what that means is every single call that shows up for that guy, right? You make $1,500. Okay, so we're at $1,500 per call show. If 50% show up, right, then we're at $750 per call booked, right? So every booking you get that guy, you make $750. If these motherfuckers are over here with $1,000, right, and a 25% close rate, you know what I mean? Then what you're doing is you're getting 1 in 4, so already you're $250 for everyone that shows, so you're at $125 for every call booked. Why the fuck are we booking these dudes' calls? Right? Take one of these guys, make him the setter for this guy. Do you know what I mean? And go, okay, cool. You're gonna call everybody who books in, move them around. You gotta play chess with this shit, right? Like you can't just go like, oh, it's fucking equality. No, the equity and diversity department doesn't exist in sales, right? There is no successful company that has a really successful equity and diversity department. I can tell you that right now, champ. Okay, so. This is really, really important because that average cash and that close rate and that show rate, that slot utilization rate, Steph Curry gets the goddamn ball. There's a reason why, like Steph Curry, you have to get him 30 shots a game, right? 30 shots a game. This guy, you got to get him his 30 shots a game, or this gal, right? Because, like, I'll give you a real life example. So if we take, like, Laura, right, on one of the accounts, she's closing at, like, 75% on one of the accounts with, like, 2x the average cash value as to the rest of the team. Now, she's obviously managing it, so she cannot take that many. But if I say, well, Loz, can I get 15 per week from you? She's like, yep, sweet. You better fucking believe she's going to speak to 15, right? So that means I don't book 15, right? I'm happy to double book every single one, even with a 60% show rate. I'll book 2, or I'll book her, right? If she's a 45-minute one, I'll book her 30-minute back-to-back. Right? Back to back all day, right? Because I need her to speak to 15 people. Because if she speaks to 15 people, whatever that math is, she gives me fucking 12 sales. Right? If she's like, so, and I'll have someone like come onto her calls with her. Right? And then anyone who needs to be pushed, whatever, they can just do that. Get one of the sitters, get one of the other guys, and then like we can feed her, we can feed that person some of her comms or figure it out. Right? We can make that work. But if you guys see what I'm talking about, you have to know these numbers. They're essential that we understand these numbers, right? And so, like, because between the sales forms and the EODs and the problem solving, what we're doing here, your daily routine, like, you're going to be going into all the systems, right? You need to know the CRM, right? Because what do I need to know? How many leads am I getting? How many leads am I getting? Not just book calls, how many leads, right? Because leads become what? Leads become, like, if we're going to use MQLs or SQLs or whatever, but leads are going to be like, we have opt-in, right, which is like a name, phone number, email, name, phone number, email. Then we might have like an application, right? So they've gone through and filled stuff out. And then from there, they're going to be a booking, right? So if that's like an application funnel, opt-in, application, booking, right? Those are buckets of leads. Now, if we have an application, we can do a thing called conditional logic, where depending on how they answer, they go different ways, right? If you are doing a thing where you have an application with a conditional logic, where depending on how they answer, they're going to go down one of two pathways or three pathways. Usually it's like DQ, or like they just go straight to an outbound list. And then it's going to be like a discovery, and then it's going to be like a sales call, right? Like a full enrollment call, depending on how they answer these questions. So these will be 15-minute, and these will be 45, let's just say, right? So it's like, but I want to know how many of these can I turn into these, and how many of these can I turn to these? How many of the outbound lists can I turn into discoveries? How many discoveries turn into sales calls? And how many sales calls are there in total, right? How many are booked from here, and how many go to here, right? Because those pass-through rates become really, really important, because like that's the thing that you can manipulate, and you can have a dedicated or dictated minimum like push-through rate, right? So like, because that's going to be a huge thing, right? It's also going to affect the close rate. So, and this is where you start like manipulating everything to start generating money, right? Because that's what we're after at the end of the day. We're after sales, and we want to make money, right? So we're not after the highest possible close rate. I couldn't give a fuck about it, right? But what we want to do is we want to have an understanding, okay? So let's just go through like an application funnel real quick. So they're going to go here, which is OB. They're going to go here, which is triage, and they're going to go here, which is sales call, okay? Now, we're going to go through the MI and D at the same time that we do this. You guys are going to have to fucking follow along. It is what it is, okay? This is like how fast your brain needs to work if you want to do this at a high level, okay? So let's just say I'm going to do easy maths. I'm going to do $100,000, right, per month is what we want to make. The first distinction I need to make is I need to go new versus recurring. I'm going to use 2 plus 2 is 1 quick maths, right? I'm going to do it like a 50-50 split. So we're going to do 50K and 50K, right? Now we're going to do the product, right, is going to be 2,500, and then we're going to go average cash is going to be 1,000, right? And we're going to do the close rate is fucking 25%, and the show rate is 65%, okay? That's the little calculator. I would have that calculator like on a Google sheet as well, and then I would have those fixed, and I fuck around with them all the time to see like what I can get, right? Because there are other numbers that we want. We want like things like lead to set, right? We should be able to get a 15 to 25% lead to set. If you're not, then the setting team isn't doing a very good job, right? SDR call center will get that every day of the week because the guys are called like crazy. Then we want like set to show, which is obviously, you know, show up rate. If we're doing discovery, we want the pass through, right? Which is going to be like the discovery, the throughput. Do you know what I mean? And then we also want like the lead to close. And then we want like the set to close. And then we want the show to close, which is the actual close rate. We want all those numbers, right? And I'll have somebody create a resource after doing those. But those are the numbers that we're going to need, because if you keep watching and you can follow along, then like you'll be able to see what I mean by the importance of all these numbers, right? So it's like we have this, we got 50K worth of recurring, 50K worth of new. So I'm not going to worry about the recurring for now, because we're just going to say that historicals in the business, that's what we're looking for. All right, so with $1,000 and 25%, so I know that we need 50 sales, right? Because it's an average of $1,000 cash, right? So I need 50 sales, okay? Then from there, we're going to go, okay, we have a close rate of 25. So I know I need 200 calls held, right? Then from there, we have a show rate of 65, but we have 200 divided by 0.65. We have 307 calls booked, okay? 307 calls booked, 200 held, 50 sales at 50K with an average cash of that, okay? Now, what we would do is we would say, well, there's like 3 avenues where they can come from. So they can come from the outbound, they can come from the discoveries, or they can come straight from the funnel, right? So like from the paid, right? So because like the outbound, we're basically outbound triaging them and then booking them straight into a sales call. The discovery, they're going to do a discovery and book them straight into a sales call, and then we're going to have a percentage, okay? Which is going to be really important because the goal then up here is 307, right? Now, if we have a look back, we go, okay, cool, I need 150 of them to come straight from the paid application. So 150 have to come from the application, right? Then from there, I want 75 to come from discoveries, and I want the other 82, right? Numbers, okay? So now we have to break this down because it's really important that we know this because we're gonna have different show rates and stuff like that. But it's like, let's just say, so we have 65, so we have to have those, right? So now it's gonna be like, what is the price of that? What does an application one cost, right? So it's like, because we have to figure out like the leads, because people come through and they become an opt-in, right? Then from there, they become an application. Then from there, they're put into 3 different buckets. So like, we have to know to get the 307, how many opt-ins do we need, right? Like we have to know that. So let's just say we need, and this is for the sales and marketing department to figure out together, let's say we need 1,000, right? So 1,000 opt-ins, 30.7% of them are gonna fill that out. Now, what does a fucking opt-in cost? Let's say it costs $10, right? So it's like, sweet, so I need $10,000 worth of spend, okay? And let's figure out what kind of return of ad spend they're gonna get for that, right? So we know that we're gonna make 50 sales, we're gonna do 50K, okay? That 10K equals a 5x ROAS off the front, which is very good, okay? Now, once you take into account the totality of it, it's probably like an 8 or a 10, something like that, right? But like if we can get a 5 off the front end, if we can get a 4 off the front end, we're going to be super happy because that's going to be liquidating really nicely, and they're going to be able to afford more ad spend and stuff like that. If we're running at like a 1x ROAS, unless they manage their cash really well with front end, you know what I mean? It doesn't really work that well, okay? So, and that's where we would go in and have a look at some of these metrics and we go, what can we really change? Like the 1,000, you know what I mean? Like we go, well, what we're going to do is we're going to try and get that to 1,150. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you take that over fucking 1,150 times 50, it equals 57,500. So that extra $150 equals $7,500 down here, which is a significant change, right? So making the return of ad spend much higher. It goes to almost a 6x, right? And that's not very difficult. So what we could do with that, we could have a look at the payment plans and we manipulate the payment plans, right? We just add little bits here and there, right? We make it go from a 2-pay 50-50 to 60-40, right? We make the 3-pay go 40-20, go 40 or 50-25-25, right? Stuff like that, right? You can manipulate that kind of stuff, which is super easy. Or if they have some sort of ridiculous payment plan, it's like 1,000 pay, just get rid of it, right? Because those people aren't liquidating anyway. We're much better, sort of giving that feedback to the marketing and just not getting those people in the first place or being better at sales, right? So, and also for the 75, right? Like what's the pass-through that we have to get through in order to go from there? Do you know what I mean? Oh, sorry, this is sales calls booked that we have to get. Right, so we need 307 sales calls. So we have to book 75 here, 75 here, okay? So in order to book 75, let's say we have to have 150 turn up, right, to a discovery, you know what I mean? In order to get 75, like a 50% pass-through rate. And then from there, to get that, we have to do 200, right? So now it's like, okay, cool, we need 200 fucking discoveries to have 150 show to be able to get 700 to get 75 to show up to be part of our 307, right? So that would mean that like that number of that 150 to 75, that pass-through rate there is very manipulatable for you, and you could have a minimum 65%, right? So they have to send through 65% because the track that you might fall into is that these fucking loser closers, right, are going to be like, don't fucking send me those people, fucking, I'm the best. Shut up, you fucking loser, right? like, I need to get that number. I don't give a fuck about your stats. Like, I don't care. I need that number because you're part of a cog and I'm trying to run a fucking engine here. Then from there, 82 sales calls booked off outbound, right? So that we can get this. Like, how many? Maybe that's 1 in 10, which means we're going to need 820 of those people, right? And we're going to need a dialer. Now, to have 820 leads, that's probably 1.5 SDRs, I would say. So then you're going to have like, okay, in order to do this, right? I know this is fucking weird. I need 1.5 SDRs. I'm going to need 307 calls booked, right? At 45 minutes. Okay, 307 multiplied by 45 divided by 60. That equals 230 hours, right? So if I have a look, I divide that by 150. I need 1.5 closers. So if I have 1.5 setters, so let's just go 2 setters, 2 closers, right? I've probably got enough bandwidth to go to, say, 150,000 a month, right? Here, with those people on those stats, and if I can increase my average cash, right, then we're good to go. Do you know what I mean? Now, like I said, I've gone through a lot there, but you can see, like, that's daily, man. This is like, you're doing this every day. And then you figure out, like, of all those things that you can do, what's one thing that you can try and fix, right? What's one thing? Have a look at your EODs. Do you see anything that's, like, strikingly ridiculous? Have a look at your sales forms. Is there some sort of, like, is there a lead source that is a clear fucking winner that's producing 50% of your sales, but it's only got 25% of your budget, right? You're like, hey man, on all the sales forms, I'm noticing that all of our sales are coming from like career changers on Google. How much budget is going to that? Oh man, it's only like 10%. It's like, well, I think that we should look at that, right? Because they're not going to know unless you tell them, right? And all they're going to do is optimize for cheap fucking leads, which doesn't really help us except for in this strategy over here. So, like, you know what I mean? So we can start to figure out strategy together. We have a look at the MI&D. Where are we at in terms of this number, if that's what we're going for, right? And what's the stupidest looking number in that bunch? And then do we have the capacity to be able to do it? Do we actually have our 230 hours? Do we actually have our 2 setters to be able to do all these numbers? And if we don't, why haven't you said anything? That's your fault, dickhead, right? Do we know what our average cash, close rate, show rates, product values are, payment plans? You know, what's the pass-through rate here? What's the outbound to fucking sales call rate? What's the lead to sale, lead to set, lead to schedule, set to, you know, set to close, lead to close, right? Held to close. What are all of those numbers and how do they compare? And how do we get this thing to 500K a month, right? What does it look like at 500K a month if we were just to fucking get a beautiful, glorious, exactly what it is we wanted, right? And that's what being a sales manager is. You have to know your CRM. You have to know your booking stuff. You have to know your stats. If your guys don't fill out their sales forms, then you fucking do it for them. If they don't do their EODs, you give them a call, you fucking do it for them. That is your fucking job. They should do it, you should be a better leader. But if they're not, then you still need the fucking information. It is absolutely 100% on you, and it is not acceptable as a sales manager to not be able to have all these things up and running. And the real cheat code is you take all this stuff, you have it, you have your calculators, you have things in CSV files, you upload that motherfucker into ChatGPT, and you have a chat in your ChatGPT, right? Get the paid account, you little brokey, right? And then from there, you start asking it questions, getting insights, and generating reports, right? You generate reports and insights that you give to your management, to your senior management, to make it look like you know what the fuck you're talking about, right? Because a lot of management is perception. People have to feel like they really know what you're talking about and what they're doing and what problems you're solving. So if you went through and did this and you figured out this was the big problem, you're like, hey, went through today so that this has been identified as a major issue. My goal is to get this pass-through rate from 42% to 65%. The way that we're doing that is by mandating 65%. We're going to enforce that through this mechanism. It starts tomorrow. The expected bump that we want to see is we're going to see an increase in overall bookings and a slight decrease in close rate. The reason for the decrease in close rate is that we are letting in more unqualified people. So I'm predicting that our close rate goes from 25 to 21%. However, this will be counteracted by the increase of sales calls by X, and I think that we will see an extra 6 sales per month. Thank you very much.